Hello, Dr. Sasha. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm great, my man. Thank you so much for having me today.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate you. And you see, Dr. Sasha, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So, firstly, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest it in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, yeah, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Dr. Sasha, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I used the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, just recently, Dr. Sasha, I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and earthy branches, and not just mangoes now, Dr. Sasha. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Dr. Sasha that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to say no to you. And getting to read a little bit about you, the beautiful stuff that you're doing, your philosophies, your journey, your insight, and how you're offering your solutions. These things are beautiful. So I've got to say thank you so very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Yeah, man. Thank you for investing in yourself and thank you for being here. I truly appreciate you, my man.
It's my pleasure.
Beautiful. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Doctor, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge
Yes,
now,
sir.
yeah, but the application of it. And you see, Dr. Sasha, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the audience. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Dr. Sasha on the show is for the sake of the listeners. They say, Doctor, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Doctor, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Dr. Sasha,
Oh, yeah.
let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about the personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Dr. Sasha got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Doctor, over to you.
Absolutely. Well, my man, again, thank you so much for having me here. I can't wait to kind of hold this space for not just you and for your listeners to really make it a space of reflection and insight and growth. A little about me: I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor, I'm an educator, I'm a speaker, and I've been a therapist for roughly over a decade, really helping a lot of individuals break free from these unconscious patterns that are really rooted in deep childhood trauma. And so my work is attached, like it's really grounded in attachment theory, trauma healing, early childhood development, and really brings this dynamic, compassionate approach. And, my man, it's funny, like I shouldn't have even gotten into this field to begin with. When I left grad school as a budding counselor, I my idea was to work with teenagers and adults and be very behavioral based. And I came out of graduate school like looking for a job, trying to figure out what direction to go in. And it wasn't until a family friend of mine who worked with the 0 to 5 year old population, like we're talking early childhood, came to me and said, hey, I think you would be great with kids. Come give it a shot. And I'll be honest, I had no idea what I was doing working with that population. But working with that group started to make me realize the deep impacts that those first 5 years of our life really have on how we get shaped as adults. There was things that I was seeing in little 3-year-olds that I was noticing in 23-year-olds. And I was like, how interesting that so many of these things continue to persist. And so I spent a lot of my time educating myself, training with some of the greater minds, and trying to get a better understanding of how these things that happen to us really shape the people that we become at such an unconscious level. So for the last 10 years, I worked in community-based mental health, working with a lot of low-income families, trying to work with those that really needed it. I worked in a private program, opened up my own private practice, and really started to reach out to the community to try to serve as this beacon to help people understand the impact of these early relationships that we have and how it sets our nervous system, hardwiring, core beliefs that really ultimately ripple into everything that we do into the future. And so I'm here to spread the message. I'm here to share my knowledge with everybody because I started to realize it's not fair for you to just get this stuff because you have to come get services. Why shouldn't this information be available to the public to know beforehand and have it be more preventative rather than being more interventional?
Beautiful. And that's a great one you're doing because the world really needs your solution. And I've got to say, you are amazing, my man. So, there was this part I'm curious about. Okay. Are you ready for me?
Yeah,
All right. So, let's talk about generational cycles. All right. So,
yes.
why is breaking generational cycles so hard?
Yeah, that's a great question you bring up, man. And to be honest, is these generational cycles that sometimes get passed down to us, they are so deep rooted within our body that ultimately we misconstrue it as protective factors, right? The tendency to sometimes yell at our children, our inability to cope with their discomfort. So many of these things become passed down to us and it gets ingrained in our nervous system. Like people get surprised when I tell them that by 11 months old, a child can start to anticipate what's going to make my caregiver comfortable and what's going to make them uncomfortable. And for a lot of children, the message that they get is if you're comfortable, we'll be comfortable. And so many of these dynamics that exist in families, when it gets passed down to the child tries to rationalize it as something that's necessary, that's needed. And so it becomes a part of who they are. And it gets ingrained in such a deep, unconscious level. And so until people really do the work to bring awareness from the unconscious to the conscious, breaking these cycles can almost be impossible because it's such a automatic thing that our nervous system does as a way of protecting, as a way of thinking that this is what the norm is.
Tell you, my man, it is so automatic. That's so true. So so
Very.
so what does breaking generational cycles really look like day to day?
Oh, I love that question, my man. So many people think that breaking generational cycles means I'm going to wake up one day and I'm going to be like the perfect person. I'm never going to yell at my kid. I'm going to start having like loving myself. I'm going to never do the things that my parents did. But that's kind of a false, snapshot of a reality because nobody is perfect, right? And what breaking generational cycles looks like day to day is pausing. It's having self-compassion for yourself when you do falter. It's welcoming repair, not just with your child, but with yourself anytime that you can find the moment to make it happen. No adult is perfect. And for some of us, we still might carry these cycles just a little bit when they pop up. But I instruct so many of my clients, the parents that I work with, that breaking that cycle means pausing, compassion for yourself, and welcoming that repair. And for so many families, that repair will be the thing that breaks the cycle. It creates a disruption in the ripple effect that happened, right? Like my man, like you could think of it in when a trauma happens, it's like someone in a lake takes a pebble and they toss it, and what happens is this ripple exists. And for us parents or as individuals, when we pause, when we have compassion, and when we repair, it's almost like putting our hand in a lake and stopping the ripple and watching it disperse almost into a completely different direction. And that in itself begins to change the trajectory, not just internally, but for the generations to come as well.
Wow. You see, listening to you speak, my man, I can tell that you're so good at what you do. But there is something,
Thank you, thank
yeah,
you.
but there is something I believe that it's so inevitable, which is challenges. So, how has the journey been so far? And how were you able to overcome those tough moments or those hard periods?
Alicia, like it's great that you bring that up because even for myself, like I'm a man who's been in this field for 10 plus years, like I'm even in my own therapy. I had my own childhood trauma too. And one of the greatest tools that I really did ever have to learn for myself was this concept that we call self compassion. Uh, I was hardwired to blame myself, to really beat myself up when things didn't work out. And at the end of the day, what I had to realize is the behaviors that I engaged in, maybe that I deemed not okay or were causing me setbacks. This was little Sasha just trying to protect me. And it wasn't until that I kind of turned to that little boy and said, you know what, instead of blaming you, instead of being so mad at you all the time, instead of finding shame in you, I need to have grace for you. I need to understand that you are sometimes scared, you are worried, and you are doing everything you can to stay safe. And I need to hold that space for you too. And so, because we're not perfect, I'll still have my moments, even with my fiance. Sometimes, I'll get upset if I feel like I've disappointed her. And it's not until kind of being able to hold that little guy inside of me and being like, I get it. I get it, which allows me to almost work through the pain and work through the disappointment and work through the hardship to allow the curious, creative, calm adult that is Sasha to come more into the present conscious space to do what I know that I need to do.
Beautiful, and I got that. So you mentioned childhood experiences. So how do childhood experiences
Mm-hmm.
shape our relationships and parenting style?
Oh my God, they set the foundation for everything. People don't realize that the first relationship that we ever have in our life is with our parents. They set that foundation for us of what's okay and not okay. Not just, again, behaviorally and value wise, but they really ingrain it in our nervous system. Our parents' stress and their own ability to cope with our feelings will tell the message to us: are our feelings okay? Do we need to suppress our anger, our sadness? There are some kids out there, you might want a little cookie right before dinner, and their parent tells them no. And so their kid gets a little angry. And what their mom might tell them is, hey, good little kids don't get angry. But what that child starts to learn is angry kids don't get love. And so what this child might start to do as they get older is they start to suppress their anger, push aside their boundaries. And how does that play out in their relationships? Well, imagine if their partner does something that upsets them and they need to express that, but they tell themselves, no, I'm not going to. Imagine when they become a parent and their child gets naturally angry and throws a tantrum, their body sends a message to them that this is not okay, this is dangerous. And they try to shut that feeling down right away, or they send their kid to their room to handle it on their own, not realizing that your child needs you in that moment. If our caregivers weren't there for us in that moment, how do we have the blueprint, right? So our parents set the foundation, they set the blueprint for the relationships in our lives and the relationship that we have with ourselves and the relationship that we have with things. Think about food, luxuries, objects. They set that foundation for us too.
Wow. You see, this is eye-opening, my man. And you put it
Mm.
beautifully. Our parents set the foundation. You're like the blueprint. Wow, wow,
Mm-hmm.
wow. I got that. So what about this one? Mm. What is the link between adult anxiety and the emotional environment we grew up in?
Oh, I love this question, Alicia. This is a beautiful question. So many people recognize that, are starting to recognize now that anxiety doesn't take place in the head. Anxiety is in the body. It is a nervous system response to what is anticipating danger, right? Even if we think about our ancestors in the wild, living in a society with buildings and work, and this is still relatively new to human nature. For majority of human evolution, we lived out in the wild. And so these feelings kind of served a purpose. I mean, for our ancestors that were hunter-gatherers, when they were going out into the wild to hunt, they needed anxiety to prepare them to say, hey, there might be danger lurking out here. Get ready. Now, over time, our parenting environment too. Imagine a child who has to walk on eggshells because their parent is depressed, their parent has alcoholism or addiction issues, a parent who is just stressed out because they have to work all the time and just they're overwhelmed themselves and they don't create this safe, calming environment for the child. That child's nervous system will prepare them for danger. Even today, like I live in the Bay Area, Alicia, right? And it's a very high stressful environment where some of the youth that I work with, their body is preparing them anxiously for not doing well on a test. Why? Because they see the response their parents have when they don't succeed well, where their body actually sees like this is equivalent to death. My parents' rejection and disappointment and upset with me. And when the body is left in this constant state of, okay, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Imagine how that manifests in adulthood when you're just trying to get by, right? When you're just trying to function. Imagine how it manifests in social settings, in relational settings, right? In just being.
Wow, Dr. Sasha, this is very, very helpful. And thank you for sharing that. So to bring this to an end, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about the beautiful stuff you're doing, or even ask you questions, or open your services or programs, how can that be possible?
Beautiful. Well, first and foremost, Alicia, I just want to thank you so much for giving me this platform. If your audience ever wants to reach out to me, they could find me on Instagram or TikTok at Dr. Sasha Reiisi. That's SASHAREIISI. They could find great information. I use that space to share a lot of things about attachment theory and work and healing yourself to become the parent that you needed as a child. So one thing that I would love to kind of share with a lot of your audience, so they can kind of take away with, it's this idea of, again, self-compassion, no matter what. whenever we falter, whenever we mess up, or whenever we do that thing that we promised ourselves we wouldn't do, have self compassion for ourselves, because that self compassion will always be the key to get us on the wagon, back on track, get back going. Because ultimately, in our mistakes and our faults, there's just a little kid version of ourselves that's doing everything it can to protect us. And I don't want our audience or ourselves to blame that little kiddo. I don't want us to have pain towards that little kiddo. I don't want us to have animosity towards that little child. I want us to love them and hold them and give them the grace that maybe they needed as a child.
Love them and hold them. I got that. So that's gonna be the end of the show, Dr. Sasha. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this beautiful stuff with us. It means a whole lot, my man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Beautiful, my man. Now